Okay, you're on.
66. We start today, 66A. Amar Mar. Master said, that means we're quoting a Brisa that we already quoted. We're going to re-examine a Brisa. The Brisa was the Tana de Rabbi Shmuel. And the Tana de Rabbi Shmuel went through all four of the grasshoppers. And it said, how do you know a grasshopper with a long head is also kosher? So it says, Chagav. No. He said, how do we know that a tzartzar is not... maybe a tzartzar should be kosher as well because a tzartzar has all four categories. So he said, Chagav. It needs to have the name Chagav. And tzartzar doesn't have the name Chagav. So he said, maybe if it has the name Chagav, so... maybe if it has the name Chagav...
How's that?
What is, I see a Gemara...
No, with a white...
Oh, what about on the top?
Gemara's.
Maybe if it has the name Chagav, it doesn't need the signs. It says no, Lemineo. Lemineo, to its kind, means that it needs to have the four signs of a kosher grasshopper as well. It can't just be the name. So, Ishmai Chagav, this is a quote, like in quotations. We're going back to the Bais. If its name is Chagav, Yachaleim by Kol Simanim Halalu, maybe it should be kosher even without all the signs. Talmud Leimar Lemineo. Says no, to its kind. Achiyu by Kol Simanim Halalu, until it has all of the signs of a kosher grasshopper. The signs were the legs, the wings, the jumping legs. Ein by Kol Simanim Halalu Mehechetesi. Gemara asks, what was our Havamina in the Brisa? If it doesn't have the signs, so it should be kosher. How could it be kosher without the signs? Arbe v'chargol ksiv. It says locusts, the green and the yellow locusts, and those have a sign. What were the signs? They have the either the forehead or or not the forehead, the smooth forehead. So Gemara says, Eily ksiv salam. If it wouldn't say the third grasshopper that has the tail, so then kidduka amrit, then I would understand what you're saying. But hashta de ksiv salam. Now that it says salam, and l'rebuye reisha yarach, the extra word salam, we learned in the Brisa, if the chargol itself would have taught me, together with the arba, all the characteristics, I don't need salam. So salam told me that even a grasshopper that has a long head, even though it doesn't have a long head, salam, but because it's totally extra, it teaches me that that's also kosher. So hashta diksiv salam l'rebuye reisha yarach. Now that it says salam, to include with that extra word, even something that it itself doesn't have, which is the long head. So maybe Chagav is coming to teach that I only need one sign, or koldu is even a small drop, even nothingness. It would still be kosher as long as it has the name Chagav. So Kamash Malan comes to teach me Lemineo that it won't include that. Okay, what we just did was the Brisa said in the list of the four grasshoppers, it says that one of them is Chagav. Chagav tells me that the grasshopper needs to be called Chagav for it to be kosher. So the Brisa said, what would I have thought? So the Brisa says, maybe all it needs is to be called Chagav, but it doesn't need the other signs of a kosher grasshopper. So we said, how could it have said that the other grasshoppers, the other three, have the signs? We said, actually, one of those three only has one of the signs, and that third one is including something that only has one of the signs. So I could have thought that the fourth one is also including something that doesn't have the signs, that doesn't have the majority of the signs, and it would be just the name. So it says no, lemineu, it's not just including the name. Maishna hasam da amrit salam ze rishon v'chargol ze nipol. Maishna hacha da amrit salam ze nipol chargol ze rishon. Okay, this would have been possible to pay attention to, because they were words that were meaningless to us. We don't know this Persian or grasshoppers. So, but if you look back at the Tana de Beirav, the very first one on Samachay on the bottom, yeah, it's easier if you have only Hebrew Gemara because you turn one page. Otherwise, it's several pages. So over here it said Solam Zarishain. It's 4 lines up, and Chargol Zenipol. Okay. Now turn the page. On the top of Samachay, and over here it says Chargol Ze Rishain. Where's the Salam? Yeah, Chargol Ze Rishain, and Salam. So on the top, on the second to the top line, it says Salam Ze Nipol, and Chargol Ze Rishain, which is exactly the opposite. We said here that Salam Ze Rishain. Okay, let's do it like this. According to Rav, Chargol is Nipol. According to Tana de Bei Rabbi Shmuel, Salam is Nipol, and the Chargol is Rishon. So why is it switching here? What the translation is? So the Gemara answers, Marki Asrei and Marki Asrei. Each one called it the grasshopper, a different name in its place. They called it something else. It's like in English, and in England, we could use different terms for different things. Whatever. That's what they gave it a different name in that place. Okay. We start a new piece, Reb David. We're on Samach Vav. 66, and we're up to the words of Bedagim Kol Sheish Leishnaper V'Kaskesas. Route 66. We said that the fish, if it has fins and scales, it's kosher. The snap here is the fins, and the kaskesas is the scales. So, snap here, has the word fin in it, if you read it backwards. Feinon, fin. It's close to Hellman's. Tana Rabbanan. The Rabbi's taught in a Braisa. Very interesting piece here. Ein lo yachshav v'asad legadol achar zman. Let's say it doesn't have the scales now, but it's going to grow them later. Like a herring. You get a herring, you don't see scales on it. When it gets older, when it matures, it shows the scales. Is it kosher? It's got to be. Kegain, hasultanis va'apiyan. I don't know if we know what those fish are, but okay. It says harizim mutter. It's going to grow them later. Okay. Yesh la'yachshav asad la'shiran b'shosha elam min hamayim. What about the opposite? What about it has the scales when it's young, but as it ages, they deteriorate or fall off.
It's like swordfish.
Like tuna or swordfish, yeah. But the tuna has that. The tuna doesn't have scales on it when we. I think it's like.
So we can eat it when it's young, but we can't eat it when it's
No,
old.
it's the question is it a kosher fish?
Sturgeon, what's the
Yeah, there was an issue
That's
with
what you
sturgeon.
said, because it loses its
That's like
scales.
a issue for hundreds of
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
From the
yeah.
Rambam times.
Yeah. We'll get to that. I think.
Very
So Kigoin,
complicated.
Akunas. If you change the girsa here, it could be a type of mackerel, but anyway, Akunas is not. Afunis, Kaspisium, Kaspitias. That could be this Kaspitias could be the swordfish. Rashi says these are all Persian words. If you speak Persian, va'atunas, all of those, harezim mutter.
Tuna?
Yes, so. All of these are mutter, even though they lose the scales as they age. Okay, the following Gemara is a famous Gemara, and it's in Masechtas Nida, because the Mishnah that we're quoting is in Masechtas Nida. The end of this has a famous point. Tanan Hassam. It was taught there in Masechtas Nida, it's a Mishnah. Kol sheyesh le kaskesas yesh le snaper. Any fish that has scales also has fins.
Rashi says that in the Bible. And that pasuk.
Could be. Yesh le snaper vein le kaskesas. However, there are fish that have fins, but they don't have scales. Yesh le kaskesas, yesh le snaper. If it has scales and it has fins, dag tar. That's kosher. Yesh le snaper vein le kaskesas. If it has fins but it doesn't have scales, dag tame. Then it's not kosher. Okay, that's the Mishnah. The Gemara asks, Michti. Let's examine this. Akaskesas kasam chinan. We're relying totally on scales. That's the only factor that if it has scales, automatically it's kosher, because every fish that has scales has fins. And if it has fins and doesn't have scales, it's not kosher. So I only have one characteristic here. It's the scales. So lichtav rachmana kaskesas v'lei lichtav snaper. So just write the scales is the kosher sign. The Gemara says, ikasav rachmana kaskesas. If it would say kaskesas, just the scales, v'lei lichtav snaper, and it didn't say the fins, so hava mina my kaskesas, it would have said, what is the translation of kaskesas? I don't know that word. I would have said snaper. I would have said kaskesas means fins. Vafilo dag tame, and I would have included even non-kosher fish, because I wouldn't have known how to translate it. So kosav rachmana snaper v'kaskesas. So it has to say snaper v'kaskesas, fins and scales. I should use the Hebrew. Snaper v'kaskesas, which tells me that one of them has to be scales. Okay. V'hashta the kosav rachmana snaper v'kaskesas. The Gemara asks, now that the Torah wrote, the Eibishter wrote, Rachmana, Snaper v'kaskesas, those two words, Mimai de kaskesas, levushahu. How do you know that kaskesas means this garment, this covering of scales? The ksiv, because I have a verse, V'sirian kaskasim hulavush, that he was wearing an armor like scales. That would allow them to bend their arms if it was made of. Or to move if it was made of like scales. So is this by Goliath? I think it's by Goliath. So we know that kaskesas means scales because we have a pasuk. So lichtav rachmana kaskesas v'lei lichtav snaper. So why do you need to say snaper to tell me that kaskesas means scales? Even when it says snaper and kaskesas, the only way I know kaskesas is scales because I have another pasuk that tells me kaskesas. So Amar Rabbi says in the center in Israel, Rabbi in Kasaria, Rabbi he says, and v'chein tana debei Rabbi Shmuel, and it was taught in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel, Yagdal Torah v'yader. Just to give us extra Torah, to increase Torah. Okay, I heard a pshat on this at a shalashudis in my father-in-law's shul. There was someone there that said a pshat. He said that there is a fish that's poisonous that has scales and doesn't have fins. So really, there is, we said anything that has scales has fins. There's a poisonous fish that has scales without fins, but it's not necessary for the Torah to tell us that because you can't eat it anyway because it's poisonous. So now it says, so why does it have to say? Why does it have to say fins and scales? Scales is enough. Why does it have to say fins? To tell me, Yagdal Torah v'Yada, that even though I won't be able to eat that fish anyway, practically I can't get it onto my plate because it's poisonous and I won't be able to eat it. So, but nevertheless, the Torah tells me the halachas about it, even though it's not really actually relevant.
What does Tosfos
That's
say?
Tosfos says-
That's the same quote in the Rashi that's in the Chumash. That's how he uses
Right.
it. Yankee Torah.
Right.
So one line Tosfos. How
Yeah.
come?
Hirba.
Should be.
Oh, the Tosfos is saying that it's giving us extra ways of knowing that kaskesas means scales. I know it from this pasuk, and I also know it from snapper. I know it from kaskasa mulavash, and I also know it from that. Okay.
We learn in so many places that there are no extra and
Yeah.
unnecessary words in
Right.
Torah. Isn't this saying that it's
Right.
unnecessary?
Yeah. That's why I like this pshat, because it's not saying that it's unnecessary. It's teaching me about a certain fish, even though that it's not relevant, but it's not, doesn't mean it's not necessary. It actually tells me a halacha. You know, they ask, Ma'anin Shemitah Eitzel Har Sinai. It says, Parshas Bahar talks about Shemitah. So it was said that it was given at Har Sinai. So it says, the Rashi asks, Ma'anin Shemitah Eitzel Har Sinai. So they explain the question. By Har Sinai, we were going to go straight into Eretz Yisrael. It's going to be Mashiach times. We weren't going to have to work the land. So Ma'anin Shemitah Eitzel Har Sinai. By Har Sinai, we weren't going to have any of those halachas of the six years you're going to work it and the 7th you're going to leave. Ma'anin Shemitah Eitzel Har Sinai. So it answers, all the details are in the Torah. We're given at Har Sinai. Klaleh, Pratea, Diktikah was all given. Every possibility that could come out, even though right now it's not relevant and all of this, it's all in the Torah, every possible detail. So that's the what we see here. Yagdal Torah v'yad.
What about the price of tea in China?
Exactly. The price of China in China. Okay. Tana Rabbanan. Was taught in a brisa. Now here, we should really have a chumash. I'm gonna get a chumash from up there that so we can just look at the verse. There used to be purple one. Okay. Thank you. So we're looking at Vayikra Yud Aleph, which is in Shemini, and here it says, in between after the animals, it says, "Ezeh toichlu mikol asher b'mayim." This is what you may eat of all that's in the water. Kol asher leisnape v'kaskesses b'mayim b'yamim v'necholim oisam techelu. Anything that has fins and scales in the water, in the seas, in the rivers, that you can eat. Sort of said that twice. This you can eat from everything that's in the water, and it concludes that you can eat. Then it says anything that doesn't have kol asher ein leisnape v'kaskesses b'yamim v'necholim. Skips b'mayim. Mikol sheretz hamayim, from all that's swarming in the water. Mikol nefesh hachaya asher b'mayim, and anything that's living in the water. Shekatzim lachem, that you can't eat. So it says the reverse also. Gemara says, Mimashma shenemar achol es sheyesh lai. I would understand when it says that you can eat that has fins and scales. Shemeani al teichel shein lai. I would understand that if it doesn't have it, you can't eat it. Mimashma shenemar al teichel shein lai. I would understand when it says that don't eat if it doesn't have the fins and scales. Shemeani es achol sheyesh lai, that you can eat what does have. So the pasuk gives me the positive and the negative, because the Gemara is saying, what is this teaching me? Why it has to tell me both? V'lama shanan. Why does it repeat it? It says laver love basei v'leisasei, to tell me that I violate a positive and a negative if I eat a non-kosher fish. there was a discussion about certain types of fish, if it was with the hechsher or not, certain types of tuna. I remember one rabbi that was very strong against eating this brand of tuna. Said non-kosher fish is much worse than pig. He was quoting these gemaras that tell you have a positive and a negative, and surprising. Okay, now it says, "Toichlu mikol asher b'mayim." We're discussing the introduction to the kosher fish. It says this you can eat from all that's in the water. Anything that's fins and scales in the water and the seas, you can eat. That's extra. The first part we're saying is extra. Rashi discusses why don't we say the second one is extra. He says that we won't be able to learn what we want to learn from the second one. So even though the first one, the introduction, it's not extra yet because we didn't repeat it yet. But he says we're going to discuss the first one, the introduction, that's extra. Ma Talmud Laimar. Why do I need that introduction? Sheyachal, because I could have thought, Hayil v'hitter b'mefurish v'hitter b'sasam, because there's something that's permissible explicitly, and there's something that's permissible implicitly. So it's implied, but it's not clear. So makash hitter b'mefurish, just as when it hits it, when it permits it, clearly, lo hitter ela b'kelim, it only permits it in the vessels. Af kash hitter b'sasam lo hitter ela b'kelim. Also, when it permits it implicitly, it only permits it in the vessels. What are we talking about? We're talking about bugs in the water in New York. This is what it says. Do those bugs have fins and scales? Are they kosher? You're allowed to drink water that's in a vessel without examining the water.
It's part of the water.
It's part of the water. Listen to the pasuk. This you can eat anything that's in the water.
So lobster.
Then it goes on, and it says anything that has fins and scales in the seas, in the oceans, in the streams, those you can eat. That means I'm going to need in the streams in the oceans. I need to have fins and scales. But something that was in a cup, in a vessel, that's not a problem. I don't have to examine it for bugs. Okay.
That's interesting.
But it's part of the water.
Right.
It's not a
I
separate
think it was
entity.
assumed that it's spontaneous generation, that it was created from the water itself. You know, I think that's the assumption. Now, where did the machlekes come out? That there was this whole argument.
The bugs?
It really had to do with were Chazal referring to the bugs? Was this referring to the bugs that we know, or is it referring to other bugs? So here's the thing. Chazal said that the bugs that are in the water are permissible. Now, what were Chazal thinking? Was it bugs that were... Did they think that it was spontaneous generation? But really there's no such thing as spontaneous generation, let's say. And therefore the bugs that we have today are exactly those bugs that Chazal were thinking of. They thought it was spontaneous generation. Science says that it's not, but it's the same bug. And so therefore these bugs are permissible. Or do we say that Chazal were talking about spontaneous generation, and they knew what they were talking about? And these bugs are not spontaneous generation, and these are not the bugs that Chazal permitted. So the whole machlekes became like, what's Chazal's understanding of science? Remember your Slifkin discussion. Did we know better now, and then therefore what Chazal said is exactly what we're talking about? We just have a new understanding of this. That's like a modern approach. Or the traditionalist approach was, no, Chazal said spontaneous generation is permissible. This is not. Now we look through it, you can see it's not spontaneous, and therefore what we have is forbidden.
Does that mean that the Havamina by Chazal was, hey, water is water? Excuse my wonderful New York accent here. And therefore, it's okay to drink water. And look, if in those days, if spontaneously generated parasites or bugs came in there, it doesn't change like the status of kashrus. Whereas now we know that there are bugs already, the parasites that are in the water of, let's say, New York City, and therefore the whole thing is totally irrelevant.
Right.
So that's what we're saying.
Yeah, that's the two.
So
Those are
it-
two ways of looking at
So
this.
Chazal was looking at it as we're starting off with there are no bugs in the water.
Right.
All right, and who knows if they happen? That's why it's kosher. But
Yes,
now
sir.
we can't even apply that. Once we know, because once we know,
Yeah, or the other way that we're looking at it is that that Chazal were talking about exactly the scenario that we have today, that exactly our water, and they said that it's permissible.
so why do we prohibit?
No, so that's why some people don't. Those are the two.
I mean,
The
some
two
people
approaches,
just drink it and don't
Yeah.
go with the bottle.
Okay,
Yeah, but according to that point of view, then bugs in fruits and vegetables should be kosher.
we're going to
also.
see that as well.
Oh, yeah,
That's
part
we're
of
going
it.
to see that as well.
you're such a
yeah,
smart
yeah.
thing.
We can see that as well. If it came there before,
If it came before,
if it came
then it's
before while it
kosher.
was on the tree, then not. Then it's considered on the ground. If it comes afterwards, spontaneously afterwards, then we said it was kosher. Yeah.
We learned it before.
Minayin, the Gemara asks, Minayin l'Rabbi spires sichon u'ma'oros. We said only kalim is permissible, bugs in a vessel. How do we know, without fins and scales, how do we know that this applies also to a well? How do they translate sichon u'ma'oros? Other types of things that hold
Ditches
water.
and caves.
Ditches and caves, good. That you can bow down, bend down, and you can drink from them and without any restraint. Anything that's in the water. The introduction to our pasuk, to the fish. Heichan hitter bekalim. Where did it permit by vessels? Diksiv ezet teichlu mikol asher b'mayim. Bayamim u'nechalim. Okay, 1 second. Because it says this you can eat from anything that's the water, b'goymer, etc. Bayamim u'nechalim. When it comes to the seas and we're continuing the pasuk, the seas and to the rivers. Hu dechiyas le'achol, the lesle loiseichol. Over there, it makes a difference if it has the fins and the scales. That's when you can eat it. If it doesn't have it, you can't eat it. Ha bekalim, but in vessels. Afal gav the lesle achol. In vessels, we never spoke about fins and scales. Even without fins and scales, you can eat it. You see, when you read these psukim, there's two ways of looking at this. One is, it doesn't say vessels here. So one approach is, well, it says bayamim uvenechalim, with fins and scales, I can eat it. In a vessel, am I allowed to eat it without fins and scales? Or am I not allowed to eat it even with fins and scales? It doesn't say. So if I would just read the first pasuk that permits me to eat it, I wouldn't have it so clear. But when you read the second pasuk, anything that doesn't have fins and scales in the ocean, that I can't eat, that would tell me that if it's in a vessel, I don't need the fins and scales. That's a little more clear.
Serious stuff.
What about when you breathe? You breathe animals.
We shouldn't eat it.
Right.
Ema, the Gemara asks, maybe, let's say, maybe if it's fish in vessels, in a tank, you can't eat it even with fins and scales. The Gemara says, don't think like that. Diksiv, because it says, because when we look at the reverse, at the negative pasa, the negative, the prohibition, anything that doesn't have the fins and scales in the oceans and in the rivers you can't eat. In the oceans you can't eat it. But in vessels, even if it doesn't have it, you can eat it. Notice the prohibition. Where's the prohibition? Only in the ocean.
So when you put into Eily, it should be okay.
So you could eat non-kosher fish in a keli.
If it came from the water.
If it started in a keli, yeah.
Right.
Just
If it starts in a lab,
Started,
so you have a lab.
right?
Well, today you have this meat
You
made
have
in
these,
labs.
you leave water long enough, you'll find fish in there.
Yeah, I forgot who he was.
It's
What was his name?
stagnant, fish
Who did
start
the
to build in.
experiment with the willow tree? He measured the he measured how much soil there was, and he couldn't figure out how the tree grew afterwards because he just added water. He measured how much water he added, and the tree got heavier. He didn't know about the carbon. So it was an old experiment they did, in the 1600s. So, but he also said that I'll give you a recipe of how to make a rat. You take a barrel, you put in some wheat kernels, you take an old shirt or something, you throw it in there, and within a few months it'll turn into a rat. He was like a great scientist, Okay.
Professor.
For us, fins and scales.
The Ema,
Fins and scales.
let's say a little different. B'mayim, if you look at the pasuk, b'mayim is klal. That's a general rule. B'yamim uvenecholim prat. The seas and the rivers are specific. Klalu prat. Ein b'chlal al masha b'frat. When I have a general and a specific, I'm only left with what's specific. Yamum uvenecholim in. That means oceans and rivers, yes. Nitzim acharitzim light. But if it's smaller than that, how do they translate nitzim acharitzim?
Ponds and canals.
What is it? Ponds?
Ponds and canals.
Ponds and canals. I would say not. I would say that would be permitted. The Gemara says b'mayim chazer klal. It says afterwards b'mayim again. Now, the truth is, it doesn't say b'mayim after the whole thing. It says teichel mikol sher b'mayim. Okay, that's the general rule. This you can eat. Anything that has fins and scales, b'mayim. Again, another general rule. And then it gives me the details afterwards. B'yamim u'v'necholim, the oceans and in the rivers. So, the Gemara asks, Hani trei klal d'smichel adadininu. But these two rivers, these two waters these two general rules are right next to each other. Ravina says, Kedamri b'marava, like it says in the West, that kol makam shatamaytish shnei klalos asmuchim zelazeh. Anytime that you have two generalizations that are right next to each other, hatal prat b'neiim, you put the details in between them. It says general detail. What you do is you remove the general, you put it at the end. You remove the details and put them in the center. You shuffle them, and then you what do you have now? B'doinam b'chlal pratu klal. And then you have a klal pratu
When you
klal.
say Amim Marav, it's like undisputed.